I'd like to thank King Speak for providing a review code for Mandragora Whispers of the Witch 3. This is a game that I had been following for quite a while, a small studio, Kickstarter campaign, a lot of promises. That's usually a formula that can go sideways really easily. So what is Mandragora, before anything else? A Metroidvania Souls-like that puts you into the hands of an Inquisitor tasked to find a witch, hunt it down and bring it before the priest king so that he can pass judgment. I will leave it here that before we start, it's also proper to talk about what the game developers promised on their Kickstarter campaign and see if they actually delivered or not. There's three main vertices that I would like to focus on: a Metroidvania that makes you feel right at home on the genre, with a base of a Souls-like combat system, beautiful graphics such as those that you would see on Ori and the Will of the Wisps and the Blind Forest, and a complex narrative filled with moral dilemma, trying to reach the quality and, in their words, the writing of The Witcher 3. So we will start with the graphics, of course. And yes, they did deliver. You do have the base of Ori art style, but what makes Mandragora special is that gothic dark vibrancy it reflects. Quite the paradox, actually, and the contrast. Rarely have I seen a blend and marriage of saturation of colors that allow for that obscureness to pervade in the picture in a perfect synergy. It has to be said as well that this is not next generation graphics that push the boundaries of what graphical technology can achieve nowadays. However, it is one of those games that looks beautiful for what it is, and that can withstand the passage of time because of its unique approach. That also reflects on performance as well. On RTX 4070 4K native resolution, everything maxed out, I was able to sustain 120 FPS without any drops at all. And it is also worth noting that all of that was using just 60 or 70% of the card's total usage at all times. I wouldn't be surprised to see this game running at 120 frames per second mode on the newer consoles, and really good results on the Nintendo Switch, although I did not have access to any of those versions, so I cannot confirm any of that. As for visual variety, there's lots to be had in here. The game is a huge, and I mean a huge, place to explore. You go from a gloomy forest to oppressive vampire castles and desolate dungeons, destroyed villages infested by creatures of the night, and abandoned snow fortresses in the snow. The game keeps you always in this space where nothing overstays its welcome and you always are looking at something different. Let's talk about sounds, music and voice, because I have quite a lot to say in here.
I was raised on the streets of Crimson City and would have died on them had I not displayed the ability to wield the arcane arts. Word of my powers spread, and I was taken from my mother to be trained as an Inquisitor. What happened to her, I still don't know. Sometimes I have a dream of being born. The rain splashing, my mother's labored breathing, the sound of a mandrake screaming.
The voice acting, it's just marvelous, remarkable. I'm astonished by the quality of it, almost to the point where it's only soothing to hear your character speak sometimes. Emotions are properly conveyed and character countenance feels properly established from the different ones that you meet on your journey. Now the music is where I was just completely sold. And yes, the music is as good as the one that I showcased for you. It's dark, it's mystic, ethereal, gothic, the perfect blend of chord instruments with the light piano touches, and those very subtle choruses that explode into the solace of the night. It was composed by Christos Antonio from Sectic Flesh, and it's a band that I actually know and love before Mandragora, so it might be some of my bad speaking in here right now, but I cannot help but love that eerie feeling of dreariness that invades the scene whenever you are exploring, the somber, lonely guitar that accompanies you where no one else would. Now, here's where the praise starts to come down a little bit. Maybe it was my expectation from the previous promises being fulfilled, but the story falls short compared to how marvelous the rest of the game is. There is indeed a strong focus on moral dilemma and the narrative of men and monsters and who is who, but it is portrayed in a very cliche manner that even without me spoiling anything to you, you already can kind of see where everything is going, for we have seen it so many times before. You are the champion of the light, the hammer of the priest king, sent to persecute the unholy and bring them to justice. But even from the start you can sense something is off from the design of the priest king, like if they already wanted for you to know what or who was he going to be. A typical story of the religious institute that judges the nature of the unknown, the witches, and the truth behind everything serves a purpose to keep you going, but it's definitely not something that keeps you engaged. At least, not what I was playing for. The rest of it will, like the marvelous gameplay that you have in here. I do want to set up expectations in here as well, because this is a Metroidvania that often feels like it's doing its own thing while trying to stay on each side of the fence. On one, Souls-like, on the other, Metroidvania. Exploration is masterful and something that if you're a fan, is much more of what you already know and what you're already familiar with, huge divergent paths that force you to explore to find each secret, some inaccessible areas on the first levels that you know that you are going to come back once you get one more traversal tool later on in the game. And it's always rewarding that you're always getting new gear, armor, weapons, rings, enchantments for them. You don't explore the game just because it's a beautiful looking place, but because the reward is actually always worth your while. Especially because there is a transmog system in the game, and I cannot express enough how grateful I feel for that, because I always wanted to get more gear to see how else was I going to fashion my character next. As per the combat system, you have a very responsive Souls-like that leans a little bit more into the pacing of actions and patterns memorization rather than something very active that keeps your character dashing, bouncing and dodging like we're accustomed in other games in the genre. But the iframes are really good, the animations are great, and the enemy design is varied and interesting enough. You have proper, even too lenient parries and dodges frames and windows here, but there is a lack in animation that often feels too easy to get familiar with things, and that is a huge downside because the game loves, and I mean it loves to recycle bosses. Expect to be fighting the same boss over and over again, up to more than 5 times even. A concession that I personally like to give them, because we have to have in mind that this is a small development team and the content that they are offering is huge. You can squeeze up to 30 to 40 hours just by streamlining the main path, not to mention that there's tons of side quests, bounties and extra content to explore that keeps everything fresh. That is not that the game focuses on bosses, just bosses as I first thought, but rather embraces it as an overall whole that gives you so much once you put it all together. You have a very engaging platforming system, entire sections of it, not only when you're doing your regular exploration but also on special levels, that gives you new types of currency to enhance skills that you have acquired and give them new traits like longer time on a fire weapon or higher scaling whenever you have to use that spell. Tied to that, there's also the encampment, where you can craft gear, enchantments, potions, accessories, cloaks, food, and what have you. It requires some degree of engagement, and you do have to be crafting stuff to level up your camp, your NPCs, so that you can keep crafting later gear, even if you do not use that merchant enough, or even if that's something that you do not want to invest that much into that specific NPC, like potions for example. Every time, though, you will find diagrams in the worlds. The more you get, the more they level up, so they get experience by you exploring the world, so that you do not have to go farm all materials to level them up and whenever you feel that they're falling behind. The character building is weird because you still have a Souls-like combat system, scaling weapons on either strength, dexterity, power, and such, but you get those stats on a node tree similar to that of Sultan Sanctuary or Path of Exile. However, fret not. They're not as complicated in here. You have the main altering skill nodes, stuff that gives you like healing every time you kill some things and things like that, and the connecting nodes that give you the main stat for the scaling of your weapon and the rest of everything, like vitality or more defense. And for example, I have a strength scaling weapon. Just make sure that you're picking up strength on the way towards your main node so that you can increase the scaling and the damage of your weapon. And you can multi-class however you want to, like me, a pyromancer with flaming weapons that also a main fighter. So that's pretty dope. The only one thing that I do not like about this is that I personally have not found anything anywhere or something that allows you to respec your character, so you do want and have to follow a playstyle. You better marry to it and live with your mistakes, because once done, you're stuck with it. It also nullifies build crafting experimenting, which I found weird since there is a training dummy on the camp to make sure which combinations gives you more damage. It's something that I personally use in the rest of my games to build and theory craft the best builds possible. Perhaps I'm just dumb and I didn't find it at all, but if there is not a place or something that you can respec your character on, that's going to be a bummer. And I'm going to have to advise being careful with the build that you're going to be planning before committing to it, because once you do, you're stuck with it. So is the game fun? Yeah, it is. I no-lifed the hell out of the game because I was just addicted to it. I love the art style, I love how gothic and dark it feels, and oh god, how I just love how it sounds. It will give you, like I mentioned, about 30 to 40 hours of gameplay. That's also New Game Plus included on a game that has a price tag of $40 on launch. So I recommend for you to get this game as soon as you can, because it's really worth your while and it is going to give you the value back that you're investing in here into this game. If you like the content, say like and very super appreciated. Nostalgia that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, you're in Discord. Have a beautiful day, goodbye.